Okay, we should have put a Kleenex on the table, right? Wow, okay, that was amazing. We have one more. So our next inductee is Dudley Duncan. And so please first take a moment to check out Dudley's video.
And leadership to find the success story of Dudley Duncan. Dudley served his country in the Air Force, which doesn't seem like a pathway to swim coaching, but Duncan took advantage of an opening at Pope Air Force Base in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He took the reins of the Fort Bragg Aqua Dragons. On departing the Air Force, Duncan became an Old Dominion monarch and coached the Bounty Otter Swim Club, now called the Old Dominion Aquatic Club, from 1974 to 77. Dudley then spent a year at Vero Beach with the legendary Jim Montrella and the Indian River Swim Club. Although it was a successful partnership, Duncan couldn't resist the lure of the Commonwealth State, where he led the Virginia Association for Competitive Swimming, the ACS, from 1978 to 89. 8 of his swimmers attended the 1988 Olympic trials, with his top pupil, Whitney Hedgebeth, making the U.S. Olympic team in the 200 IM. Hedgebeth would go on to earn a gold and 2 silvers at the Atlanta Games of 1996. Off the deck, Dudley helped construct the merger in Virginia swimming, leading to the formation of Poseidon Swimming with Duncan named head coach. Poseidon became a major player in the 1990s at U.S. Nationals with the 1996 women's team making the top 10 at Senior Nationals. Duncan also coached another Olympian, Rada Owen, who made the U.S. team in the 200 free. At this point, many coaches would have rested on their laurels, but Duncan left Poseidon and in 2003 formed Quest Swimming, starting with 30-some athletes and growing the program to nearly 300, including American record holders Jeffrey Newkirk from Texas, Tennessee's Maddie Bannock, and Team USA member Clark Beach from the University of Florida. 4 years ago, Dudley retired to Vero Beach, where he enjoys retirement, Florida life, and being a grandfather to 4 children. He authored The Art of Swimming and the Game of Racing, which was released this year. You can find Duncan in the Virginia Swimming Hall of Fame, the Swim RVA Hall of Inspiration, and the International Swimming Coaches Hall of Fame. We are thrilled to welcome Dudley Duncan to our home, the American Swimming Coaches Hall of Fame.
And to introduce Dudley Duncan, we have Coach Chad Onken.
Thank you very much. Dino, tough act to follow, as always. My name is Chad Onken. I had the pleasure of swimming for Dudley about 30-some years ago. Fast forward to today, I am now even luckier to call him one of my dearest, closest friends. Dudley is, no doubt, he is a household name in our community, and especially in my home. I have 2 little 9-year-old girls. They were so excited about Dudley's induction into the Hall of Fame. We were watching the news one night a few weeks ago, and finished the news, sitting around talking, and one of my daughters said, "Daddy, you're going to get to meet a former president." And I said, "What in the world are you talking about?" And she goes, "Yeah, didn't you say Dudley was going to be indicted?" So it was a very long conversation about the difference between indicted and inducted in our household. Nonetheless, I've mentioned he's a household name in our house. He may not be a household name in yours, so I'll tell you a little bit about Dudley. First and foremost, Dudley Coker Duncan. That's not a punchline, that's his name. An extraordinary name for an extraordinary man. He's a proud veteran, as you saw, United States Air Force. He was based in Panama. He's a black belt in karate. He could do the splits into his 40s. He won't brag about it, but he was also an all-star goalkeeper for his adult league soccer team. He's a simple man. Late 80s, he lived in an unfurnished house with just a mattress for about 2 years. He considers a TV dinner, Hungry Man especially, a gourmet meal. And he will never be mistaken as a fashion icon. He is pretty plain, no bright colors or anything crazy with his wardrobe. He's a lover of man's best friend. I have great memories of Jack, Midlow, and now his new dog, Vero. He's a voracious reader. As an adult, it's been a very awesome pleasure to talk to him now and exchange book reviews and ideas for different things to read. You will not find him in a convertible, a sedan. He's a pickup truck guy. And his newest truck, he was absolutely furious about because it didn't come manual, no stick. So he was pretty upset that it was an automatic. He is a horrible singer, absolutely horrible. A tradition amongst his coaching days has been to sing "Happy Birthday" on your birthday, and it is horrible. He's a medical marvel. Dudley has had a stroke. Probably can't tell. He's had severe invasive back surgery. I remember visiting him when I was still in high school at our local hospital. He had just had surgery for his sinuses. And he described to me and showed me the scars where they went from his ear over his scalp to his other ear, peeled back his face, and as he described it, took an ice cream scoop to clean out his sinuses. It's pretty cool. He's a lover of the outdoors, whether it's biking, kayaking, or introducing his swimmers to one of my favorite places on earth, Grandfather Mountain. He is intensely stubborn. He considers that to be one of his greatest positive characteristics, but Jeannie, I think you and I can attest that it's not the case. He's a very educated man. His time in the military cut up his education, so he ended up going to 6 schools in 8 years. He does not appreciate the fact that you tell him he should be a doctor after all the time that he's been in school. There are all sorts of Dudleyisms and vocabulary. You've certainly had a conversation with Dudley if you've been challenged to elevate your consciousness, if you've been told that we need to shift the paradigm, if you've ever heard the equation for swimming fast, if you've ever seen a grown man run across the deck doing the rooster cheer, or if you've heard a story about the wide-mouthed frog. Dudley is an author, as it was discussed on the video, The Art of Swimming and the Game of Racing. I hope you will all pick up a copy. He'll be signing books and selling them tomorrow. It's a great book for young coaches, old coaches, entrepreneurs. Most importantly, Dudley is a proud husband, father, son, brother, and grandfather. As a coach, Dudley was not a very rah-rah coach, very stoic, which leads me to the last story. We're at Buffalo Junior Nationals, and everyone's talking about our women's team and how great they were going to be. We had a future Olympian on our program. The guys had our own little meetings, and we talked about how this was our time and how we were made for this. We talked about it on the pool deck. We talked about it throughout the meet. Dudley heard us talk about it and would just give that nod of approval. Again, not a very big rah-rah guy. But that was our rallying cry that week for the men. This was our time, and we were made for this. We had a great meet, kicked butt, won a bunch of medals. This little team from Central Virginia was a top 10 team at the national championships. So Dudley, welcome to the ASCA Hall of Fame. Please know this is your time and you were made for this.
Whoa, Mark, these are some lights. Thanks, Chad. Really appreciate you telling all those stories. But I want to thank Chad, and I want to thank ASCA, and especially the people that were instrumental in selecting me for this honor. It is humbling, and I am deeply honored. I also feel very honored to be inducted along with my friend and colleague, Mark Bernardino. His record is stellar. To share this with someone of his professional stature and one with whom I shared so much of a coaching life in Virginia is most gratifying. Mark. So, I also want to thank swimmers. The swimmers all together. We have Whitney Hedgepeth here tonight and Susanna Martinez, but all swimmers, they just have really taught me all the way through and have made life great for me. So also Whitney is probably the single most important reason for me to actually be here tonight. So thank you for that. And I want to thank all my coaching staffs. And John Smithson and Chad Duncan are representing all of those people from my past. And all my colleagues that I've had association with who are critical to every success. And to my family who live the lifestyle with me. And Jeannie's here, and unbelievable. So I'm saying these three thanks too, and they're not in any particular order, because each was of great importance in its time. But for me, this is much like aging. I know that maybe sounds a little weird, but where you walk by a mirror and you see the real you in the mirror, and your mind has yet to catch up with the fact that your body has changed its appearance, over the years so much. The trek from beginner coach, where I began as a summer league situation like a lot of people, but my mind has yet to catch up with the fact that you're here tonight and you're listening to me. But that said, what I want to talk to you tonight is about excellence. But in this context, I hope that the thoughts on excellence will intertwine concerning your job as coaches. The reasons for the subject are twofold. A, I've heard echoes of coach burnout during this year, and that's a term I really am not familiar with from the past as related to coaches. I've heard tired, I've heard frustrated, I've heard can't wait. I've heard more than a few curse words along the way. But never that too much was expected and it was causing coaches to burn out. I have, of course, heard the term related to athletes, and more than I'd like to, actually, but not to coaches. And B, I also saw a list of coaching responsibilities. It was published by Wayne Goldsmith. I saw it in June. And it listed about 27 work items to accomplish well or possibly lose your job. And many of those jobs to do were not specific to coaching. It's a fairly intimidating list, I must say. However, I would say the list is not extraordinary for many leaders or small business owners or persons who strive for excellence in their fields. I think I've done them all, and I made it to see y'all tonight, so it's good. While family time was admittedly a little bit limited, maybe more than a little bit, but vacations were limited, and social life was admittedly slightly different from the norm, the pursuit of excellence was the driving force that led to this event tonight. So I've also made a list of things to consider, and as I stated earlier, I hope some of the list will help you to have a motivating perspective concerning your job. And the first on the list is a question. So, what do you do? And I don't think it's a challenge or the commitment or any other difficulties. It pertains to excellence. It is the difference between what it will take not to seek excellence and what it will take to know excellence. I'm making the assumption that all coaches are working on some level toward excellence. For example, if there's a truck you want, not a car, anything like that, but a truck you want and the lump sum price seems too great, it's not the lump sum price that you need to consider. It's the difference between the truck that you want and what it will cost for the one you don't want. So the difference is less than the lump sum. And excellence is similar. The difference between what it takes and what is needed to achieve it and what is needed to be more comfortable is less than all the things that are needed to achieve excellence. Just learn what you need to do to reach for excellence and do the things that you learn that make the difference between average and excellent. Second is just an FYI, but there's a point to it. I started life a little bit poor. I actually didn't know it was poor, but as I look back, when my family was living in France for a time, my dad was stationed there in the Army. We had an outhouse, and we had some mice running through the house from time to time, and us kids really used hand-me-downs like most, families. And I had a sister, by the way. I didn't know what I wanted growing up, but I knew I wanted different, and I was never actually able to have everything I wanted. But I have had more than I thought I would have in life, and I've had a lot more than I needed. I think this was because I mostly thought about the things that I wanted, not the things that I didn't want. Not in terms of material things, but in terms of accomplishments. And for me, some material things seem to follow diligent work. I've said this to so many swimmers when they seemed anxious at meets before races. Think about what you want, not about what you don't want. And the third is having to do with goals. I didn't reach all my goals either, by the way, but I realized more than I would have without them. Also, sometimes it felt like I was going backwards, but I seemed to end up forward eventually. I like this quote by Ursula K. Le Guin. It is good to have an end to journey toward, but it's the journey that matters in the end. This is true, and all of you know it, but keep the quote in your consciousness. It helps. The fourth is live in the present and don't worry. If you live in the past, you may fret over things that didn't work out the way you wanted them to in the past. If you live in the future, you may worry about things, whether things will turn out as you want. Of course, the past is past. You can't do anything about it. The future is unknown. There's no need to worry about it. You live in the present. It is rare that what you're doing at a given time in your present life, that it seems extremely difficult. You can almost always do what you happen to be doing at the time. So live in the present. Live to the max in the time you're in. This will give you the best odds for making better of the past and living better in the future. And give your family and loved ones, all of you, when you're with them, because the time with them is limited. Much the same as it is for military or for shift workers or for business owners or for restaurant workers or for excellence seekers and so on. Just live now. Feel glad for yourself rather than sad for yourself. You are in a unique and wonderful profession. You have opportunities to make very positive differences in people's lives. As an example, listen to this quote. It was inscribed into a book that was given to me by a group of graduating seniors in 2008. It's from Thomas Wolfe, and it says, "I was sustained by one piece of inestimable good fortune. I had for a good friend a man of immense and patient wisdom and a gentle but unyielding fortitude. I think if I was not destroyed at this time by the sense of hopelessness which these gigantic labors awakened in me, it was largely because of the courage and patience of this man. I did not give in because he would not let me give in. This is how your swimmers feel about you. It's a really great profession. Now, will you get rich being a swim coach? Probably not. Will you be appreciated for everything that you do? Yes. But it might be a long time after you do it. Could even be after your passing. Or maybe slightly before, as in this case. So, the one key to happiness that I think is not to expect to be rewarded. Then, if it does happen, it will make you happier because you weren't expecting it. The fifth is about hard things. And everybody does hard things, but hard things are relative. That is, there are always harder things by comparison. And realizing the harder things will probably make what you are doing seem more reasonable. A few things are, leading anything is hard. And the bigger a thing is, the harder it is. A handicapped existence would be hard. Being a coal miner would be hard. There's lots of harder things. What's important is that you do whatever it takes to reach excellence, if that is what you want. Just don't expect excellence if you're accepting less. 6 is about fairness. I have my own definition for fairness, and it is fairness, as I define it, is a tricky word which has no real meaning and has no real place in any language. That is a positive statement. 7th, don't be afraid. As Patrick Swayze encouraged Keanu Reeves to jump from an airplane in the movie Point Break, he yelled, "Fear causes apprehension, and apprehension will cause your fears to come true." It will cause you to be in between, which is the worst possible place to be if excellence is what you want. Don't be afraid to coach what you see and the resulting thoughts that come to mind from it. It might be the wrong thing occasionally, but it will teach you just like the right thing will teach you. Be in the now. Be the best you can be. The work you do is valuable. And finally, thank you, all of you. Stay motivated, no matter what. And I'd like to leave you with a song tonight. It's called The River by Garth Brooks. And the lyrics articulate much of this in a song, just to put an exclamation mark on my words tonight. Have a good night. Thank you.